Hold on, let me go searching for an eyeball. We're already experimenting with some of this. I'm not in the mood to experiment that much. Well, I just frogged all of that for nothing. Maybe I did the movies a little bit of a disservice. Now I've forgotten how to fucking crochet. Hello there, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. This is a reading vlog. In fact, this is a very special reading vlog, at least for me. I am going to be rereading one of my childhood favorites, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I am planning on rereading the entire, Lord of the Rings saga, but I wanted to start with this one because I know I have not reread this since I don't think I have reread this since the first time I read it. I remember reading it as a child, and I do not remember reading it again, but I was really wanting to, listen to it again and re-experience it. I'd meant to do it when the movies came out, but then I watched the first movie and was like, maybe that's not the best choice considering how they're padding out these movies. This is the first in a series of 4 videos because I'm going to dedicate a video to each one of the books, and I really want to make it kind of like a little bit of an experience for myself, so I want to read the book. And then there are a couple of other things that I'm going to be doing. Number 1, I have this guy. This is why I decided to make this kind of like a little experience and just live in the moment with each of these books. Like the idea of doing a craft, and then I was like, well, what else can I do to kind of steep myself in that Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth moment. There's 4 little guys that you can crochet, so I'm going to be doing 1 per video. And then I also thought, because especially with The Hobbit, food is such a central part of the story, I thought, why not, cook myself some meals? I'm going to be doing some of the recipes in this book and taking you guys along for that journey as well. I don't know if I'm going to go into as much depth with the trilogy as I will be here, but because it's The Hobbit and we're following a Hobbit, I figured I'd try at least 1 meal from each of the 7 meals in this book. I have to sit down and do the final decision-making process of which I want to do for this, but I'll let you guys know as we go and take you through some of this as well. I guess this is kind of a review of the book and the cookbook. That's the start of the video, and I'm gonna go listen to some of this. Okay, I keep wanting to start this book, but the entire point of me starting this book is that I want to do it while I am doing the craft that I bought to do with it, but I need to unbox the craft. I'm trying to pick characters that are in each, work on the characters as they are in the books. I'm not sure how well that's going to work because I know that 2 of them are harder characters. For one of them, it doesn't matter because he's in all 3 books, but for one of them, they are only in 1 of the books. But we're starting with The Hobbit, which means I have to start with fucking Gollum. I'm dropping things. Okay, so these come with everything that you need to create this little guy. So I have a crochet hook. Okay. It's very pretty. I hate that the one that they did purple was the Gollum one. It also comes with the yarn that I'll need. I don't know that you would call this yarn, but it's so soft. It's made out of t-shirt material. So we've got brown and we've got this cute little label. Look at the label. I love the labels. Even if I hate this character, I love these labels. But this is, there's a picture somewhere, and I remember vaguely what he's supposed to look like, but body, obviously, I believe this is his loincloth, something like that. And then it comes with, whoop, okay, we've got the blue for his eyes. I think eyes. There's the batting that we will stuff him with. Yep, and then we got a darker gray, which I believe is going to be his hair. And then in this little guy are all the little things. Okay, I am confused as to what the blue is for because his eyes are buttons. Got this little card. Okay, so the instructions, it looks like, are online. That's interesting. So you go to the website and you type in the password. I'm gonna put that back in so that nothing falls out of here. Maybe, but we have more. We have more string. And then, there we go. Okay, very kind of them to include an extra eye in case you lose one, but we've got a darning needle, obviously. Ta-da. And then we've got 3 of these little eyes with the brackets that, oop, there goes one of them. See, that's why they give you 3. Hold on, let me go searching for an eyeball. Things you never think you're gonna say when you start a booktube channel. You know what, maybe I'll pull the instructions up because I really want to start this and I really want to start the book. I do have to sit down and figure out, because I want to do, like I mentioned in the intro to this video, I want to do some of the recipes from the book that's over that way. I'm not gonna go get it. It's fine. I just realized I was under the impression that the easy ones would have the thing started for you already. So I wouldn't have to deal with the magic ring. But I'm not seeing any starting, it doesn't look like. So, I might have to go relearn how to do a freaking magic ring. I knew I was going to have to happen at some point. I was just hoping that I would be able to skip it for 2 of these. Hello, I should not have stopped the camera because I was like, why? I should probably talk to you guys about, like, pulling up the instructions and everything. We pulled up the instructions. Ta-da. This is the website. It's pretty interesting. Like, I guess they have a website and you could add the different creatures to your account using your password. So I went ahead and did that for Gollum, who is the, so it turns out that there's like 3 beginner projects and then an intermediate project in this particular kit. I'm working on one of the beginner projects, which is fine. I am not a beginner, but this is my first time doing one of these guys. So anyways, but it's really cool. So like, you look at it, it's got the ugly little guy. It's got like the list. It looks like these are all videos, which is fantastic because I like, here's my thing is I like having a video and then I like having, oh, I can download the pattern. Cool. I like having a video and then I like having written instructions because sometimes I need to, like, I'll watch the video, but then the written instructions are enough to refresh my memory when I am questioning things. But also here's the thing that's really cool that they took into consideration is it says right-handed, but I can do this and it's left-handed. So that's really cool because I was expecting to have to figure out, like, how to do that on my own, which I'm used to with this. Like, I haven't had, most of the time you can find a left-handed tutorial, or a lot of the time, like YouTube, you can find a left-handed tutorial. But then, yeah, so that's nice. So at least I have that. Okay, so we've got the overview and then it goes through all of the different, like, parts of him. I haven't done any increases and decreases yet in any of my projects because they've mostly been blankets. This should be interesting.
Your kit and look in the middle of it. There should be a piece that looks like it's already been crocheted and has some plastic things on it.
All right, so we have an update on the book and we have a plant in the frame. So this is how far we've got, and we're supposed to start the color change now. However, I happened to notice something last night. Hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know. Okay, do you see? So, see those horizontal lines? Yeah? And then you see how the rest of this is V's? The top of the head is the wrong side of the fabric. You guys get to watch me frog this while I talk to you about The Hobbit. So we've made it to page 64 in The Hobbit, which is the beginning of chapter 5, which is when we first meet this guy, which is a fantastic moment. Like, it's the only time, I think, in this books where I actually like this character. But I'd forgotten, like, I knew Tolkien was funny, but I'd forgotten how just, like, funny he was. Because, like, so here's what The Hobbit is about. I haven't explained what this book is about. It's a story that is very much told in the way of someone who is kind of, like, telling you a story. Let's see, hold on, let me make sure I get this right before I do this again. Oh, I might not have a choice. Here's the thing, is they did this magic circle. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. However, because I am left-handed, the loop's supposed to be over here. So they did this magic circle in a way that this will only ever be out the wrong side. Well, I just frogged all of that for nothing because it looks like I'm gonna have to, I don't have a choice. That's the way that it has to go. Now I've forgotten how to fucking crochet. So, in this book, we are following a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins, and it is told very much in the style of a person telling you a story. We're following this hobbit. He is just chilling about his day. This wizard that knew his grandfather shows up, has a conversation with him. He, in the awkwardness of this conversation, ends up inviting the wizard to tea, and in the most millennial move you could, immediately regrets it. He's like, why did I do that? I have never related to someone in my life so much as when Bilbo was like, no, why did I invite this random strange man to tea? Like, I've never invited random strange people to tea. But you know when you're like, I didn't want to hang out. I didn't want to have company. Why did I invite these people over? Gandalf shows up with 13 dwarves, one of which is Thorin Oakenshield. Thorin is the son of a thane that lived underneath the Lonely Mountain. They used to have like a dwarven city, all kinds of stuff. There was a town called Dale that was there. And then the dragon Smaug decided that he wanted the treasure that the dwarves had, and he moved in, killed just about everybody. Thorin's father had a map, which has made its way to Gandalf, who was the wizard, if you didn't realize that part. But Thorin's father had a map, which has made its way to Gandalf. Gandalf has this map. He's getting it to Thorin. They need to get rid of the dragon, but they're like, well, here's the thing. We can't do a full frontal assault, but there is this little side passage that we can go through and the dragon cannot. Now you're wondering, how did we end up at Bilbo's place? Well, here's the thing. With this secret passage, they were like, well, if we can, like, sneak up on the dragon, but we'll need a thief, we'll need a burglar, we'll need somebody who's good at sneaking. And Gandalf, for reasons that are still a mystery to me, goes, yeah, that should be Bilbo. And decides that Bilbo is going to be the burglar and, like, puts a sign on Bilbo's door that means burglar for hire. I know we like to think of Gandalf all serious and everything, but he is so ornery. Yeah, he knows a bunch of shit, but he also will get random people involved in a burglary when they've never burgled a thing in their life. They start talking about this, and Bilbo's freaking out because hobbits do not go on adventures, but he also, there is something inside of him that he's like, yeah, I actually do kind of want to go on this adventure. And so he does end up getting shoved out the door and going on the adventure with the dwarf. And that is where we are. We have gone on the adventure. We've done a bit of the traveling. Like, we go through so many of these events really quickly. I was surprised by how quickly we got to chapter 5. And if you've read the book, you know that chapter 5 is where we meet. There is, a whole thing that's about to happen. What I'd forgotten about was how just, like, effortlessly hilarious and funny it is. And, like, it's so, like, the dwarves are so funny because, like, they're singing this whole, like, thing about, oh, let's sing this whole thing about, like, that's what Bilbo Baggins hates, and, like, oh no, we'll crash the place, blah, blah. And they are being the best house guests as they are doing this, like helping clean up dinner. The juxtaposition of the humor with what they're doing and, like, their words, it's very funny. The other thing that I had forgotten, and I don't know if Lord of the Rings is partly to blame for this, but at least in The Hobbit, the elves, they are very much, they're so much more whimsical than they're put forward to be in the movies, right? Because Lord of the Rings is a very serious kind of thing that's going on. They are, like, I'd forgotten how just kind of light and airy and breezy they are, like, personality-wise. It's very whimsical. It's very interesting to see kind of, like, how Tolkien originally wrote them, which is very much almost in, like, line with what you would consider the Summer Fae when you're looking at certain folklore, except they don't do weird deals with people. Like, it's very interesting because it feels like they don't take anything too seriously, which is a little bit of a problem, probably because they're immortal. It feels very much like fairy tale-esque, and when you get down to it, like, I remember when I was doing some of the reading when I was a teenager, like, it talked about the fact that Tolkien wrote his stories partly as wanting to have, like, purely British folklore. A lot of, like, the legends and folklore that we associate with Britain was actually not British. Like, it wasn't anything that was it was brought over, right? It was brought over by the various people that took over Britain. Hold on, I have to count. Anyways, this very much feels like a folk story or a folk tale. It also feels very much like a children's story. Like, you can tell that it was written for a little bit potentially younger audience. It's funny listening to them talk about, like, Gandalf having a wand when so often, like, what we associate with him with is a staff. I don't think there's been any mentions of his staff, which I know he has by the time we see him in Lord of the Rings. So, like, you think about Lord of the Rings and, like, you can't imagine people running around with magic wands in Lord of the Rings. And yet here is this old man in The Hobbit running around with a wizard's wand, and I'm like, oh, you know, like, there are just certain elements of the whimsy that I think do get lost in the movies. And you can kind of, having read reading The Hobbit, like, when you think about it, you can kind of see how Tom Bombadil fits in this world, and he's almost like a throwback to a lighter, a happier time, which we see in The Hobbit. It's funny that I love this so much because it is very plot driven and not as much, like, the only character we really truly get to know, I think, is Bilbo, because all of the other characters are going to be a little bit less, they're more, again, they're much more, like, they're archetypes. Tolkien is working in archetypes versus really doing deep character work. So he is depending on certain things that we know from fairy stories and from fairy tales to inform how we view the characters and what we know about them. It's been very interesting to, like, read this and, like, actually read it as a critical reader and as someone who is an adult and not a kid just listening to it while she does cross-stitch in the back of the van while we're doing road trips. We did a lot of road trips because I was homeschooled and my mom liked to go see her family. When you're homeschooled, you can pick up school and go anywhere. The other thing that I'm finding is very funny is, like, so much of this is human, even though we're dealing with, like, weird creatures. Like, there's a whole thing that goes on with a group of trolls that they come up on, and it Like, it's very much the kind of argument that you would hear between friends that are sick of each other. Like, it's just so interesting to be like making these connections now. There are some things that I had forgotten happened. Do I remember what those things were? No. But there are some things that I'm like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten that this happened. Anyways, I'm gonna go redo the work that I didn't need to undo, and I'll talk with you guys later. One thing I will say about these guys, they do require like a little bit tighter stitch than I am used to. Like when I'm doing blankets, my stitches are much looser than this is, and it is annoying me to some extent because number one, I don't like having my yarn that tight on my hand, but like the particular hold, I just don't like this one as much. It drags more, yada yada yada. But it makes sense because you're trying to make a really like tight fabric that's going to be able to hold the stuffing. I love this line because one is so cheeky, and the fact that he kept it in here. So there's a foreword at the beginning of this book that says that Tolkien did update a few things to keep this more in line with Lord of the Rings. Let's see, hold on. It says, notes on the text. The Hobbit was first published in September 1937. Its 1951 second edition contains a slightly revised portion of Chapter 5, Rails in the Dark, which was done in order to bring the storyline of The Hobbit more in line with its sequel, The Lord of the Rings, then in progress. He has this line and he says, deep down by the dark water lived old Gollum, a small slimy creature. I don't know where he came from, nor who or what he was. Mr. Tolkien, yes you do. The fact that he went in and he changed things and he kept that line in there is just such a storyteller thing to do. My goodness, like he's literally working on the book where he's going to explain Gollum's full origins. And he's like, yeah, I have no idea. Sir, you lie. I knew it was coming. Like literally, we're describing the character, but Bilbo and I both got jump scared by Gollum's voice.
I've climbed the mountains in Montana, danced in the lights of New Orleans. Portland ran away with me, and San Francisco stayed with me. Nashville made its way in between. Fell in love in Minnesota and fell apart south of Salt Lake. Colorado calls to me, and Washington will always be begging for a piece of me to stay. Maybe some things never change, but I wanna know how it feels to hang pictures on a wall, sleep in the same bed at night. I want reasons to stay, I want someone to take up my time and miss me when I
go. The lighting is terrible, but the angle is worse the other way, so we'll just stick with this. Hello, we have reached the portion where we are starting with the food. Now, what I was going to do was I was going to start with breakfast and kind of work my way through. But here's the thing. Dinner is going to be the roast chicken. My thought was, if I do the roast chicken, there are recipes in here, like some of the other recipes that I'm doing, take meat. So if I do the roast chicken, I can repurpose that meat later for one of the other recipes that I am doing. Technically it's rabbit and dumpling. I don't want to deal with rabbit and dumpling or rabbit. I'm not in the mood to experiment that much. We're already experimenting with some of this. I'm not in the mood to experiment that much. We have a chicken. We're going to do a Sunday roast chicken for this recipe. And I guess I'll take you along with that part. And I'll let you know how it turns out. We'll see. We'll see. My mother doubts the recipe because she thinks that maybe we're roasting it too high. I have never roasted a chicken before, so I don't know. I'm just going to follow the recipe. And if the recipe is wrong, we fix it later.
I've swam the beaches on the west coast, climbed the trees of Caroline. I felt the city streets of Boston underneath my feet, heard the sound of subways down the line, walked the lakesides of Wisconsin, how good a good thing was. I feel it more the further that I get. So the wheels are pointed west, till I know how it feels to hang pictures on a wall, sleep in the same bed at night. I want reasons to stay, I want someone to take up my time. Miss me when I go, I'll find reasons to stay, and someone to take up my time. Then I'm not gonna go when I get home. I'm going
updates, but first, breakfast. Hi, hello, we are here with an update. Do I have the book? No, hold on. We have the book now. I am at page 154, which is chapter 9. We've just gotten into Mirkwood at this point, and I'd forgotten that, like, Mirkwood is like... Okay, so back. Okay, so it's very interesting to contrast the way elves are portrayed in specifically like the Lord of the Rings movies, and how they're portrayed in the books. At least this book, we just had a whole situation where Bilbo and the dwarves were trying to like walk into the, like, they kept seeing like these elven banquets, but then when they would get there, all the lights would go out and everything would disappear. And it's just very interesting to see like how Tolkien wrote his elves and then how that was interpreted by Peter Jackson and his team. The elves, we very much leaned on kind of more the ethereal, wise, all of that kind of thing. But then like hobbits and dwarves just basically end up being copy pasted from the books to the movies. They very much resemble in the movies what they are in the books. So it's interesting to me like how that, I would love to be like party to part of that, those decisions. And again, I haven't read Lord of the Rings in a really long time. So the tack that Tolkien takes with Lord of the Rings, that being an adult series, might be very different. But it's just, that's the thing that keeps, like, it keeps standing out to me every time the elves come up. If you don't know, that's the ones that I was obsessed with as a child, were the elves. I was an elven girly. I like to joke that I am a hobbit, but I am in fact, like, if I had to choose, I would want to be an elf. There's so much skill in here that we're dealing with, like the world building, we're dealing with like some of the character that's happening. We really don't get deep down into the characters because these are fairy stories in J.R.R. Tolkien's mind. He is really leaning on archetypes because he is trying to create his own mythology. He's not trying to create deep character studies necessarily, although I do love like how he develops his characters and the way that he like just like some of the commentary that he'll have about the characters. It's really fun. It also definitely was written in the 1930s, 1920s with how like certain things are treated, like especially when we're talking about fat characters. We just had a whole situation where one of the dwarfs is a little bit rotund, and his friends give him a harder time than they should. It's a little caricature-y, and I get where that's coming from. I also don't particularly like it. As someone living in 2025, I know that that is not a great way to talk about fat people. We're about to hit, well actually no, we have gotten into Thranduil's court. Thorin is in Thranduil's court at this point. Right now the party's a little bit separated. One of them is in Thranduil's court right now, and then we have Bilbo and the rest of the dwarves kind of dealing with this whole spider thing that happens, because apparently Tolkien really likes scaring people with spiders. It's very funny. It makes sense. It really, like, this man would have loved a game of Dungeons and Dragons. He absolutely would have loved a game of Dungeons and Dragons. Just 100%. Anyways, I'm having a good time with this. I'm enjoying it. I'm doing it in little bits and pieces. I'm trying not to go too fast through, but also like once you start it, it's really easy to just keep going because it draws you in so well. We've made some progress on this little guy you've seen. I just have to do his hair. I almost had it done, and then I realized again, crochet makes you wonder if you can count, and I counted something wrong, and so I took it all out, and I was like, you know what, we're not gonna, like, I got halfway through, I was like, something is wrong here, we need to reassess. This got put together a lot more quickly than I thought it was going to be put together, so I realized I was probably going to need another crafty project, so I went and I bought some patterns from Etsy, these guys. So there's there's 4 of them. I think we've got, I want to say you've got the Lonely Mountain, you've got the Shire, the Rohan, and kind of that surrounding country, and then I believe it's like Mordor and Gondor, something like that. I'd be surprised if Minas Tirith is not pictured or involved, because I feel like Minas Tirith is kind of important. The one that I'm working on right now is a like heightened version of the map at the beginning of this book. I believe this is Tolkien's original map. I know that they have done updated versions of it, so especially with the movies and everything, but like, oh my god, look at this, like there's illustrations in here, and I love that. Like you can tell that this was a kid's book because they're just like stuff just put in there. The Misty Mountains looking west from the Eyrie towards Goblin Gate. Now I want to know. Now I want to figure out what I actually bought. Okay, so it's the Lonely Mountain, the Shire, Gondor and Rohan, and then Mordor. It's a whole like little kit, not a kit. I had to buy the supplies. Like I had to get all of the stuff that I already had the embroidery hoop, but I had to buy all the supplies. You're using black thread and then red thread for this guy. And this is my first time kind of tackling embroidery. We're gonna see how it goes. Like I know all of the stitches that we're using here because I've been sewing my entire life. I've just never really done embroidery beyond cross stitch. So we will see how this goes. And the nice thing about this is that once it's done, I can just pop this in water and it will dissolve, supposedly. Hopefully. I would hate to put all of the work into this and then it doesn't dissolve. That would not be great. That would not be fun. We'll see. I'm gonna go back to my book, read this for a little bit. So far the meals, by the way, have been a success. I think I maybe cooked the hash browns a tiny bit too much. They're a little overdone. It's okay, it's just flavor. That recipe used way more salt than was necessary. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. I do recipes the first time I do them how they are written. And then I start making adjustments. But like after the hash browns, I was like, we're gonna seriously take a look at what I've adjusted a couple of them though. So far you've seen me do the Sunday dinner. You've seen me do the it's rabbit and dumpling. In the book I didn't want to deal with rabbit, so it's chicken and dumpling stew. We have covered dinner, luncheon, and breakfast at this point. We still have second breakfast, tea, supper, and 11sies to cover. I'm debating whether or not I should go downstairs and make one of the sweet things that I have marked out. Not really desserts. There aren't really desserts in there per se, but like there are a couple of like things that would be yummy and have sugar involved. And I wasn't gonna cook a second thing after breakfast, but there's nothing sweet in the house. Well, I mean, there probably is sweet stuff in the house. There's nothing I like in the house. And I do have the ability to make stuff that I like.
totally forgot to update you on the status of these at the end of the day. This is the second batch of crust that I made, because the first batch I forgot salt, so it doesn't taste as good. But anyways, they're pretty decent.
So hi, we're here several months after I finished the book because of this guy. Specifically, because of his hair. Because let me tell you, those instructions, I tried to follow them like 3 times, and they didn't end up doing what I wanted them to do. So eventually, I just looked at the picture and figured it out my fucking self. Everything else, real easy. Mental breakdown over, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strands of hair. Anyways, we're finished The Hobbit, and we're finished our little projects. He turned out pretty darn well. I finished him last night. Actually, technically, I finished him this morning at like 12:30 because I needed to finish this vlog today because I wanted it to go up today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see how the editing goes. It's going up tomorrow. That's definitely what's happening, is it's going up tomorrow. But it was fun. Got to do it 4 more times with hopefully less annoying stuff. Anyways, I'm here to finish up my reviews. Oh, and to show you the rest of what I did. Having edited this vlog, a lot of it was me talking about, I think the majority of it was me doing the recipes in this thing, which I gotta say, highly recommend this if you want it. These are just good recipes in general. If you are a fan of Lord of the Rings though, they're extra special. Let's see, what did I end up doing finally? I ended up doing the mushroom and bacon hash, which like I said, I kind of overcooked. I ended up doing the mushroom omelet because why not? If you're gonna buy mushrooms, why not buy them? I didn't do everything. We did not get to all of the meals, by the way, because I couldn't. There was no room in the fridge left, so I was just like, you know what, we're done. We also did the stew rabbit with root vegetables and herb dumplings, and the Sunday roast chicken, which it was actually really good. I don't think I actually talked to you about how any of these were, but the Sunday roast chicken was really good. It worked out really well. It was fun to, even though it was a process, it was fun to do all of that with the chicken. And then I did really enjoy I always love a good dumpling soup though, so that was fun. And we also did the apple ham pies, which I told you. I ended up not eating all of those because the next time I do them, I will put a little bit more sugar in them just because they weren't sweet enough for me. And I'm someone who really likes my things sweet. I really enjoyed some of the stuff that was in it. So that was exciting. Obviously, book is getting 5 stars. I feel like maybe I did the movies a little bit of a disservice thinking, because when I watched the Hobbit movies, I still don't think they needed to be a trilogy. I think we could have done 2 movies to get everything that is in this book. But they did actually stick closer to the book than I thought. Like, I knew that there was some conflict at the end. I didn't realize the battle that happens at the end in the movie, it does actually in fact happen in the book. It just goes into way more detail in the movies. And I think like having some room for that was a good thing to do. There was some other stuff kind of in the middle. I don't think we needed to have spaced out as much in the movies. In the book, it's just, it all flows so well. It goes from one thing to the next so well. And it's, even for a book that I've read before, that I've seen the movies before, it still had places where it surprised me. It still had stuff that it reminded me. It was very nostalgic to go through this and read it. And I'm very glad that I did. It still may not be my favorite in the series because I think that's Return of the King, because that has the Houses of Healing scene, which is my favorite thing in the world. To be honest, Éowyn and Faramir, the ship of the series, even though we only get a little bit of them. If you haven't checked it out and you're worried about Tolkien's writing being really, really dry, highly suggest you start with The Hobbit. Just because it gets you into the world, it gets you used to his style of writing a little bit. There is a lot of like whimsy and fun and like just lightness in this writing. And I feel like we do still have some of that whimsy and fun in Lord of the Rings, but it's also a bit more serious from what I remember. You'll see when we get to the next book whether or not I think that remains true. And then finally, I did finish this. Look at that. I got a little obsessed, to be honest, with this. Like, I was working on it even when I wasn't listening to the book. So I just ended up finishing the book by itself. I put it in this cool little wood-like frame. Not sure how we're going to deal with the hanging part, like hanging it up, because there's not really I might have to argue with it a little bit. That would be really cute on a wall at some point. Eventually. That's it for now, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this vlog, and let me know, would you try some of these recipes? Yeah, that's it. Other videos over here. Bye!